Hey everybody. This past week at Ace, something a little bit troubling happened, a little bit disturbing. We get these people coming in looking for tzedakah, fine, all the time. Usually regularly happens during Mincha Mariv time, during the evening service. They're collecting for some institution or for their personal needs. They have some sort of difficulty in life. Okay. So a guy comes in here Sunday morning looking to collect tzedakah. We didn't have a big crowd here. And he's going around. And he goes to this one individual, let's call him Harry. Okay, he goes to Harry. And Harry goes ballistic on this guy. I mean, I surmise based on Harry's reaction, where he said, "This is what I'm giving you, and if you don't like it, give it back to me." But then Harry gets increasingly more irritated and angry, and he's yelling at the guy in front of everybody. "You're a chilul Hashem, you're a desecration of God's name, you give Judaism a bad name." And he's just like, and everyone's kind of like a little bit uncomfortable, And he got like red-faced and he left. Well, that evening, Harry returns to Mincha Mariv. And after everyone leaves, he sits me down. And he tells me, "I got to tell you something. You see, when he was a young man, when he's 25 years old, he's about to get married. And he figured he's about to get married, new lease on life, he's going to get a new pair of tefillin. So he speaks to his wife's grandfather, who was a Rav, very well-respected rabbi. And so the grandfather says, "Go to such and such place. I know this fellow at his store. Go purchase the tefillin from him. Very, religious, devout person." Okay. So he goes to buy the tefillin, and he writes the fellow out a check, $300, whatever it costs, I don't know. But he made some sort of mistake in the first check, so he wrote him a second check, and he just told him, throw away the first check. All right. So a few months later, Harry is bouncing checks. All these checks that Harry's writing, a few months after this, they're being bounced. So he goes to the bank to find out what's going on. This is before the days you can just call them up and go online or anything. And I don't know if you can still do this, but it used to be that you can endorse a check, you sign it and someone else can cash it. Well, this check had been endorsed a few times. So it went from the tefillin guy to a few others till it finally got cashed. And then he didn't have all the funds to cover it, and that's why he was bouncing the check. So he goes back to Tefillin Man over here into his store, and he walks in. You can imagine, he's 25 years old. He's a young guy. He's tall. This fellow's tall. The guy took one look at him and says to his wife, "Give him $300. Give him $300. And the wife is, "Well, what? Just give him $300. So Harry tells what happened to the rabbi who was going to marry them. And the rabbi says, given that this guy doesn't seem to be the most honest person, you might want to get those tefillin checked out to make sure that they're kosher and proper." And sure enough, he does that, and they're found to be pasul. They are found to be not good. That not only did the guy rip him off, or try to rip him off for $300, but he sold him bad tefillin that weren't even legitimate. So then Harry tells me, when this guy came to him and asked him, he says, "I give the people the same amount of money." He pulls out a wad of money because he's a very generous person. I know Harry personally, and I know he's very, very generous. And he says, "I give everyone the same amount of money." When this guy who asked for tzedakah said, "I remember last year you gave me more," I knew he was lying. I knew he was lying. Because I don't do that. And that's why he went ballistic. You see, that incident that happened so many years ago, decades ago, when he was a young man, one can only imagine the scars that it set in him, the cynicism that it created. Here he was young. He's about to get married. He's got a new start on life. He wants a new pair of tefillin. And here's this religious man, this Orthodox man, this supposedly devout and righteous man, dealing in devout and righteous articles, tefillin, trying to rip him off and selling him garbage. What kind of scar does that create in a person that then decades later, when he meets another religious man who looks righteous and frum and orthodox and all that, trying to lying and saying things that just aren't true to get more money. You see, the bottom line is there's a backstory. If you look up anger on mentalhealth.com, based on general psychological and narrative context, a person's anger often stems from deep-seated feelings of powerlessness, unmet needs, or betrayal. In this case, it was betrayal. He felt so betrayed, and that left its roshan, that left its imprint on his heart all these years. And that's why when you see somebody, our rabbis tell us in Pirkei Avot, Hevu Matunim Bedin, you should be deliberate in judgment. If you see somebody acting out of character, it didn't happen in a vacuum. It didn't come out of nowhere. It came from somewhere. I'm not justifying Harry's behavior, and we're certainly not justifying the behavior of angry people who try and assassinate the president, God forbid. But when we do come into these everyday situations, we have to understand it doesn't happen in a vacuum. There's usually a context. There's usually a backstory. And we need to be patient in understanding people when they're going through something difficult and why they behave and react and do and say the things that they do, sometimes in those difficult times in life. Have a good Shabbat.